Standard 5 is regional geography. Because Earth is so huge and vast, with various human and physical traits, people create regions to interpret it. In this map, you can see 12 regions as designated by the U.S. State Department: North America, Central America, the Caribbean, South America, all in the Western Hemisphere, and then you see Western Europe, Africa, Middle East, Eastern Europe and the former Soviet Union, South Asia, East Asia, Southeast Asia, and Australia and the South Pacific. Sometimes we see these regions broken down slightly differently depending on who's interpreting the Earth. A region, then, is a concept that is used to identify and to organize areas of Earth's surface for various purposes. A region has certain characteristics that give it a measure of cohesiveness and distinctiveness that set it apart from other regions. As worlds within worlds and cultures within cultures, regions are used to simplify the Earth by organizing its surface on the basis of the presence or absence of selected physical and human characteristics. As a result, regions are human constructs whose boundaries and characteristics are derived from sets of specific criteria. They can vary in scale from local to global, they can overlap, or they can be mutually exclusive from one another. Understanding the idea of region and the processes of regionalization is fundamental to being geographically informed. On the left of the page, for the Futures Project, the South has been divided into 5 large subregions. These divisions are roughly based on a couple of things. They are aggregations of similar ecological units, and each also has a separate social, cultural, and economic identity as well. Geographers define regions in 3 basic ways. The first type of region is the formal region. It's characterized by a common human property, such as the presence of people who share a language, a religion, a nationality, a political identity, or a culture, or by a common physical property, such as a particular type of climate, landform, or vegetation. Political entities such as countries, states, and provinces are formal regions because they are defined by a common political identity. Other formal regions might include climate regions, such as areas with a Mediterranean climate throughout the world, or landform regions, like the Rocky Mountains or the Piedmont regions of Pennsylvania, and economic regions, for example, the wheat belt of Kansas, the citrus-growing areas of South Texas, or the irrigated farmlands of the Central Valley of California. Formal regions can be defined by a measure of population, of per capita income. They can be defined by ethnic background, or crop production, or population density and distribution, or by industrial production. Or you can map physical characteristics such as temperature, rainfall, growing seasons, and the average date of the first and last frost. The map on the left shows which states voted Democrat, blue, and which voted Republican, red, in the 2008 presidential election. Although this is a formal region for the 2008 election, it could change in the next or any election. The second type of region is the functional region. A functional region is organized around a node or a focal point, with the surrounding areas linked to that node by transportation systems or communication systems or other economic associations involving such activities as manufacturing and retail trading. A typical functional region is a metropolitan area, as defined by the Bureau of Census. For example, the New York metropolitan area is a functional region that covers parts of several states. A functional region is linked by commuting patterns or trade patterns, television and radio broadcasts, newspapers, travel for recreation and entertainment. Other functional regions can include shopping regions centered on malls or supermarkets, and areas served by branch banks and by ports and their hinterlands. On the left is the New York subway system, and that's an example of a functional regional. The third type of region is the perceptual region. A perceptual region is a construct that reflects human feelings and attitudes, and it's therefore defined by people's shared images of those areas. A perceptual region tends to reflect people's mental maps. Thus, Southern California, Dixie, and the Upper Midwest are perceptual regions that are thought of as being spatial units. These units may not have precise borders, or even commonly accepted regional characteristics and names. For example, the map in the bottom of this slide shows the manufacturing belt of the United States. The manufacturing belt is a sub-region within the greater Great Lakes region. The manufacturing belt also is a dated name, since so much industry has moved out of the region. What used to be the manufacturing belt is now commonly referred to as the Rust Belt. The map on this slide shows physical regions of the United States. Starting on the west coast, we see the coastal range. Then we have an area called basin and range. Moving east, we see the Rocky Mountains and the Great Plains states and the interior lowlands. South of that is the coastal plain, which also runs up the Atlantic coast, and nestled between the interior lowlands and the coastal plains are the Appalachian Mountains. What kind of a map is this? Is this a formal region, a functional region, or a perceptual region? If you said formal region, you're correct. The two maps on this slide are climate maps, and they're broken down in two different ways. The upper left-hand corner is the precipitation map from June 2010, and the map in the lower right corner is the June 2010 temperature map. Looking at both maps, you can see that they're subdivided into regions of the United States based on general climate of those regions. Looking back at the map in the upper left-hand corner, the precipitation map, you can see the color gradients going from a dark red to orange to yellow to white and then 3 shades of green. This map is looking at precipitation, and it's showing there are certain areas that may have, for example, record precipitation, like in the east north-central portion of the United States around the Great Lakes. It's showing areas of much above normal, near normal, below normal, much below normal, and record precipitation. The map in the lower right-hand corner is showing temperatures. It's also broken into the same sub-regional areas as the precipitation map, but in this case it's showing us temperatures that are either below normal or above normal, or record temperatures, highs and lows. These two maps are formal maps. The map on this slide is identifying 29 biogeographic regions in the United States. This map of North America is a plant hardiness zone map. This is a formal map, and what it's showing us is where certain plants will thrive based on primarily physical characteristics: climate, sunlight, soil types, precipitation, and so on. The map on this slide is a map that's been produced by the U.S. Census Bureau. And what it's doing is breaking the United States into easily manageable categories for census counting. And it's broken them into three main sections: the West, which includes the Pacific and the Mountain States; the Midwest, which has 4 units: the West North Central, the East North Central, the West South Central, and the East South Central states; and then the Northeast, the Middle Atlantic, the New England states, as well as the final South Atlantic states. People create regions to interpret Earth's complexity. Understanding the nature of regions requires a flexible approach to the world. The criteria used to define and delimit regions can be spatially precise, such as coastlines and political boundaries, or as spatially amorphous as suggesting the general location of people with allegiances to a particular professional athletic team, or identifying a market area for distributing the recordings of a specific genre of music, or a regional name preference when referring to soft drinks. Regions can be as small as a neighborhood or as vast as a territorial expanse covering thousands of square miles, in which the inhabitants speak the same language. Regions can be areas joining people in common causes or in social identity, such as the map of the southern slave states in 1860 that you see on this page. The map on this slide shows the percent change in real gross domestic product by state 2007 to 2008. What we're looking at here is the United States, again broken into clusters: the Far West, the Rocky Mountains, the Plains states, the Southwest, the Great Lakes, the Southeast, and the Mideast and New England states. They're clustered for purposes of ease in managing the data. The data that we're looking at on this map shows us the change in gross domestic product. So, for example, the darkest blue regions show us the highest quintile in terms of change in gross domestic product. The lighter blue is the 4th quintile, the white the 3rd, the 2nd quintile is the lighter yellow, and the gold mustard color is the lowest quintile in terms of real gross domestic product change by state. Some regions, especially formal regions, tend to be stable in terms of spatial definition, but they may undergo change in character. Other regions, especially functional regions, may retain certain basic characteristics, but may undergo spatial redefinition over time. Yet other regions, such as the perceptual regions, are likely to vary over time in both spatial extent and character. Regional change in the context of the human spatial organization of Earth's surface is an area of study that provides students with opportunities to examine and learn about the complex web of demographic and economic changes that occur. Regions serve as a valuable organizing technique for framing detailed knowledge of the world and for asking geographic questions. Because regions are examples of geographic generalizations, students can learn about the characteristics of other regions of the world by knowing about one region. Knowing about the physical processes that create the Mediterranean climate and vegetation of Southern California, for example, can serve as an analog for learning about other regions with Mediterranean climates and vegetation in Australia, Europe, South America, and Southern Africa. Regions provide a context for discussing similarities and differences between parts of the world. In this map, you can see the economic levels in Appalachia by county. So what we're looking at are several variations of color, moving from red to an orange to white to light blue to dark blue. We see the various states in which Appalachia is located, and we see then by counties, we see which counties are depressed or at risk or in transition or counties that are doing fairly well and are competitive, and counties that have reached attainment, that are sustainable. In conclusion, through understanding the idea of region, students can apply geographic knowledge, skills, and perspectives to solving problems as immediate as making an informed decision about a neighborhood zoning issue, or as long-range as predicting the reconfiguration of political and economic alliances owing to resource shortages or changes in the global ecosystem. Most importantly, studying regions enables students to synthesize their understanding of both the physical and the human properties of Earth's surfaces at scales that range from local to global. This lecture on regional geography was created by Elizabeth Larson, School of Geographical Sciences and Urban Planning, Arizona State University, 2010.